All right, guys, so here we are in the GT2RS MR with TJLMorleyRacing.com.
Something like that.
Something like that. Tim Morley Racing. I did a 40-something minute video last night on all of our taxi drivers. I showcased each of the 6 taxi drivers and kind of what my feelings of them are. I said all the bad things I think about them and everything like that. Tim hasn't seen it.
Good job I wasn't present
there. No, but just went over what the characteristics of each person were. And let's head out.
Yeah.
Went over the characteristics of each driver and, you know, thought that it would actually be a little bit of fun today to go out. We're going to do a really slow lap. We're just going to mainly make this about ensuring that the lap is long enough for us to, what do you want to say, talk about everything and go over the details of what it's like to be a taxi driver, because here at Apex we get messages without end saying, oh, I want to be a taxi driver, you know, I've never been on the Nordschleife before, or I want to be a taxi driver and I'm racing N24 and this and that and the other. And at the end of the day, we've come across some very talented drivers, some very good drivers that have messaged us via those channels, but they're not taxi drivers. And it's going to be an interesting lap here just to talk about what Tim's seen as a taxi driver, what his take on it is, what I've seen operating the taxis, and what my take on it is. Because here we are, we've got a wet day, and Tim could put together an absolute flying lap if he wanted to. But the purpose of this lap is to make a video, to talk, and to be calm together, right?
Yeah.
And so he needs to say, okay, that's the purpose of this lap, so I'm going to drive accordingly. So what ends up happening is sometimes you need to tone your driving down to your passenger, to your style, to the conditions, to what that person's after. Sometimes we get kids in the car, we get adults in the car, we get handicapped people in the car that, I mean, we've had people that are in wheelchairs that couldn't get out of the car if they had to.
Yeah.
So it's Tim's job to ensure that at all costs that car comes back, that there's no need to get out of the car and get over the barrier or anything like that. So he has to drive in a way that 100% ensures safety for everybody involved. So where we get a lot of people contacting us and saying, hey, I want to drive, I want to do this, it's not for everybody. It's something that actually carries a very high responsibility. There's a lot of stress involved, and we are talking about sometimes 40, 50 laps in a day. We've had days,
1,000 kilometers.
Yep, we've had days where we split up driving duties on a track day and run the McLarens all day between the 675 and the 720, and we just run, and then all of a sudden TF starts and it's just completely packed out. Good example of fun on the Nurburgring.
That's just something else,
but,
you know, it's people targeting these cars. It's
and
another talking point.
This is a talking point. I mean, Tim can tell you some stories. I mean, talk about that, about how you are just under the gun.
Yeah, I mean, you can't make a single move without being scrutinized.
Right.
Everything you do,
Right.
there's someone watching, photographers, other drivers,
Yep.
the Nurburgring are watching,
Yep.
the marshals are watching, your competitors are watching,
Yep.
as in, not racing competitors,
But,
you know, the
taxi competitors, yeah, exactly.
And then you just get your TF warriors that want to come out and try and prove that they are the king.
The king, exactly. It's funny because one of the things that you have to do as a taxi driver is you have to be very courteous of the other vehicles on the road, but you still have to deliver a very fast lap, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that we had some complaints about were that we're flashing people while we're driving our M3. The situation is, as you guys know, that car is an absolute beast. It is completely built by Team Shermer. It is truly a race car. You could take that car out and you could run RCN with it or VLN with it and you would have no problems. And the car sits so flat that you hit any bumps and the headlights come up, and you've seen it on the road as you've been driving just through town at night. The high beam or the normal lights look like high beams as they bounce up. Well, we've got complaints about people saying, oh, Apex is flashing us to get us out of the way, and that's coming from other taxi companies as well. And then all of a sudden today the marshal comes up to us. So what was our solution? Our solution is, let's just turn off the lights and we'll just run with daytime running lights. Today the marshals came up to us and said, hey, you guys are doing great, we're really happy to see what you're doing, but could you please maybe figure out how to get your tail lights on, because you know the car is the same color as the track and it's a little dark. And we laughed, we said, yeah, we can definitely turn on the lights, that's no problem. I said, but if anyone comes to you saying we're flashing them, we're not. These are the way the car is set up, it's just so solid that it does that with the headlights. So you're constantly under scrutiny. Yeah. You know, I've been with Tim out on laps where we've been in the E92 or we've been in the 720, or there's laps where I've been driving the 720 and people just come flying up and they're just wanting to just you know, get all over you, and or you catch them and they're doing everything they can not to get past.
Yeah.
You know, everything they can not to get past, and it really is amazing. And so there's times we say, hey, let's just back off a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's just back off
Yeah, I mean,
and take it easy.
Take some space. I mean, you know, there's 21 kilometers of racetrack.
That's exactly
we don't need to share exactly the same
Exactly
speed,
it.
so.
Now, Tim, pick up the pace a little bit. Let's get through here and maybe get away from these cars here.
See, that is a perfect example.
Yep.
The car positioning suggested he'd seen me, and obviously he
Yep.
hadn't. So.
But this is where you have to always be on top of it. You have to know exactly what you're doing. You have to know where the other cars are, and you have to know what's going on. Because in that case right there, if Tim wanted to push it, he could have snuck through there and caused a big problem for people. So you're always covering your brake pedal with one foot at any given time. You know, everyone says, "Oh, you on it full 100%?" No, you're not on it 100%. You are always leaving so much on the table and leaving so much room that you absolutely have to always have that buffer because you don't know what the other car is going to do.
Yeah, so you obviously need to leave enough room and distance for the other car to, you know, if they have a mishap, you need to leave enough room that way. But also, if you come across coolant or something like that, you know, that's something out of your control, but you need to keep it in mind all the time, you know, while you are driving.
Exactly.
And obviously, at the same time, you're entertaining your guests. So often I'll cruise around like this one hand. Decent enough pace, but, you know.
I've got something, I've got a giveaway I'm going to do right now. So there's a new program here, racetracker.de is doing photographs on the track, and they've got approved licensed photographers. If you find a picture of me and Tim on this lap right here, the first 5 people to send me a picture from racetracker.de of us doing this lap, I'm going to give you a free t-shirt. I'll mail you a free t-shirt. What's the date today?
The 7th today.
The 7th of March.
Yeah.
See what you guys can find. All right? So you send us a picture of us on this lap right now, and I'll get you guys a free t-shirt. What do you think of the track so far this year?
Yeah, your first impressions are there's, compared to the end of last year, there's more grip in the wet.
Yep.
That's solely because the track's green, so you don't have the transition between the dry line and the wet line.
Right.
So as the car slides.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but no matter what, that's a slick spot, you know?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, they've done some drainage improvements, which is nice. Because I mean, there were times last year where you'd have a heavy downpour, you'd get a river running across the track or whatever. So that's nice to look into that. But yeah, same. No major surface changes or anything like that. So
it's always a pleasure getting out at the beginning of the year. Like you said, all the oils and grease have kind of faded off the track and things have smoothed up a little bit. And it really is a pleasure. So the things that I can tell you about driving a taxi are, one, that you're always under the gun. Everybody's looking after you and wanting to race with you, and it's your job to mitigate that because you can't get into races. This is not a job or a position to get into races. As we start getting hit with frozen ice here.
I mean, that's just it. I mean, if I'd have come around there full attack and driven directly into hail,
I've gone
you can see the balls on the track right now.
Yeah, there's actually hail balls on the track. So what happens is you have to be in a position where you're ready for changing conditions. We started with a little bit of sun and a drying track. We've come into a little bit of rain halfway through, and look at this, you can actually see the hail balls on the track. So if you want to talk about a slick situation, you've got to be ready for that, and you have to know the Nurburgring. If you don't have tons and tons of laps on the Nurburgring, you're not going to be ready for this job.
And it's geographical knowledge as well. I mean, you learn to expect, you know, where the weather comes from and where it's going to dry out quicker and all that sort of stuff. But as well as that, you've also got the mechanical element of that. So where do you expect cars to blow up?
Right.
Where is the hot spot for an oil slick or something like that? Because it's you know, there are trending patterns and stuff like that, and it's just something you have to factor in.
Absolutely.
It's heavy hail up here.
Yeah, this is pretty solid stuff, no doubt. Photographer there's one of our guys.
But here is, so last year, so it was 18 to 19, this was a new section of tarmac.
Right.
You get the transition.
You get that transition right there.
And that caught a lot of people out.
Yeah, there was a lot of incidents right there. People coming from the dry to the, or not the dry, the new to the old. And there's, not only was it different contact or different grip levels, you also had a bump right there. Another photographer.
And you can see here, so you've got a drying track, obviously with new moisture on top. And that's often one of the worst.
One of the most dangerous spots, exactly.
Yeah. Especially because the dry patches give drivers confidence to push a little bit, and then the next thing you know,
they're caught out.
They're caught out. So lots of people out of Brunchen today.
Yeah, there's a really neat buzz around the Nurburgring now. It's really kind of jumping off and getting exciting, and for me it's just a pleasure to be here and see all this, everybody at the gates and everybody just kind of ready for the spring to start and come into full swing.
Yeah, I mean it was totally dead up until like 4 days ago.
So again, the taxi drivers carry a huge responsibility, not only to me, because I'm sure that Tim does not want to come to me and tell me something's happened to this amazing car, but at the same time, and more so, they've got a bigger responsibility to the passengers that they take out.
Yep.
We're literally running on one of the most challenging racetracks in the world, and we have people who have full race experience for years and years and years, 30,000 laps under their belt, also with people at the same time who have never been on the track before, maybe in a brand new car, don't know anything about track driving, and it's a very big, wide variety of people that we're dealing with. And Tim's job, Morit's job, David, Luis, Fabsan, and Morin, their job is to bring the customer back every single lap, no injuries, no incidences, but also with a smile on their face, and it's a very fine balance.
It is.
I think a lot of people have that ego situation.
Yeah, there's a big ego situation around the Nurburgring, no matter what.
Cars as a whole.
Yeah.
In motorsport, anything, you know.
It's combined men and cars, and, you know.
It's just,
but yeah, I mean, ultimately, you've got 4 living people inside a car in the case of the M3, 3 of which are strangers. You know, they are all have families, kids, wives, whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
it's a huge responsibility, and you know, that's something that the people have to take seriously and understand that if a car is coming that's faster than them, get out of the way, let them by. There's nothing against that. Another big thing that I mentioned before was that how to take care of the car.
Yeah, that's a huge aspect.
If you line up for the day and the M3 has 30 laps lined up, what do you have to do?
You got to not nurse it, but you have to make sure you do everything you can to make sure that
it gets through,
survive the day.
Absolutely.
Overnight, gets a service, good to go again for tomorrow. But if you go out and just, you know, like in racing situations, you go out and hit new tyres so hard. You cannot do that.
No,
you know, it's like
you
even
can't.
This morning, you know, we went out in the M3, brand new green set of tyres on the car. You just treat that like every other normal taxi lap. That's not, you're not scrubbing tyres in or anything like that. You know, you're just going out and behaving as if it was any other of your taxi likes during the year. So
absolutely, it really is a challenge to find that balance and to find that harmony between the customer getting excitement, the car being taken care of, the laps being safe. The driver at the end of the day needs to enjoy it as well, and we have this challenge where these guys come out of a VLN race, right? You've come out of racing a car on Saturday, and you get in the taxi Saturday night or Sunday, and you're like, let's do this, you know, and then you're like, wait a minute, you know, I've got to tone it down, and that's something that I do after the race. Like, guys, remember, we're back in TF now. We've got customers, you know, the race is over. So, but it's such a pleasure to be able to do, and it's enjoyable watching you guys do this and taking the customers out. They all come back just with you know, such a good experience and having so much fun, and I think that's what it's about.
I think for me, I mean, one of the most, obviously, it's an absolute pleasure to drive these cars and an opportunity which is just incredible, but one of the most enjoyable things is every time someone, you know, has a you know, a good experience, pleasurable experience, it just reminds me of, you know, my first laps here, and it's so happy. It makes me so happy to share that experience with people, and it's that I love that. I absolutely love that.
I think that's the neat thing about Apex as a whole. You know, it's we generally do from A to Z. We're getting people a new experience and sharing something that we love, and that is the Nurburgring. And that's why I couldn't pass up doing the taxis for these, you know, for this purpose alone, is just sharing the cars. You know. That's how we met. I mean, I was intrigued with you and how much you loved going out and just running your car and just being at the Nurburgring.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, but guys, I hope that gives you a little insight to a little bit of how Tim thinks, even though I blabbed a lot there. But it gives a little bit of insight about what Tim thinks, what he sees. And that was a perfect lap because you see the changing conditions on the racetrack and you see the different people and you see some of the challenges we come against. And I hope that shows in the forward-facing video. It's a little bit lower quality, but we had full hail balls blowing across the track. And think about what that does to your level of grip, but you still need to deliver a fun lap to the customer.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, often you get that transition period of dry to wet or wet to dry, and there's always the expectation of the customer that you have to meet. And obviously sometimes they don't realise how little grip there is.
Yeah.
So, you know, the car's moving around and they soon realise, you know, there's not a lot of grip. But you always have that, you know, first couple of kilometres where it's, you know, they're building, you know, themselves into the lap. So.
And that's why I'm truly excited to have such a professional group. Like I said, we'll link the other video that I did regarding that, so you can see we've got some really cool laps from each of these guys that are pretty neat. Some of them were driving taxi and some of them were in their race cars, and I think you'll get to appreciate what these guys really can do and how they translate that and try and give you bits of it and pieces of it in our taxis in a way that you can share with it, but also do it safely.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, you know, it's 99% of the people that come out of the car are blown away. They cannot believe a car can actually do that.
Yep.
And again, that's just another element of sharing that experience.
It is. No, cool. Well, thank you, Tim, for the lap. I appreciate it. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Thank you.